Back on the SportsMax zone for the first time in 36 years, the Canadian men's national team will be featured at the FIFA World Cup. This was secured with a 4-0 whipping of the Paul Hole-coached Reggae Boyz in Toronto Sunday afternoon. With only one game left in the Concacaf FIFA World Cup qualifying cycle, the Canadians lead the table on 28 points and are guaranteed a top 3 spot. Second placed USA and third placed Mexico are on 25 points and can both join Canada atop the points table, although Canada's superior goal difference pretty much assures them as a series winners, even if they lose Wednesday's last game against Panama. For sure they can't be worse than third. Costa Rica, meanwhile, are in fourth and guaranteed at least an Interconfederation playoff position. Now, the Canadians are coached by the Englishman John Herdman, who previously led the women's team to successive Olympic bronze medals in 2012 and 2016. And he has now guided the team to their first World Cup appearance since 1986. That was played in Mexico. Now, for the Reggae Boyz, their rebuilding phase has started. And with the defeat, they remain in 7th place on 8 points with 1 game remaining. These are the results of Sunday's Concacaf games in World Cup qualifying. We told you about the Canadian 4-0 victory over Jamaica, Costa Rica 2-1 over El Salvador, the USA 5-1 over Panama, and Mexico getting by Honduras by 1-0. Now joining us now is our football analyst Brent Sancho, a former international central defender for TNT. I think he's about 45 years old now, but 17 years ago he was a part of these Concacaf World Cup qualifiers. Successfully, we should say, for Trinidad and Tobago heading to Germany. Is there anything, Brent, as we welcome you to the show, that has surprised you about the qualifiers here in CONCACAF and, you know, how the teams are setting themselves up for Qatar?
Of course, good afternoon to you, Lance, and my good friend D. Oliver, and to all your viewers. I would suggest, of course, would be the disappointing run by the Mexicans. Of course, they're still very much in contention to qualify for the World Cup, but their play has been very uninspiring throughout the CONCACAF, and I would suggest that they struggle at times to even get to where they are now. I did peg Canada to be a dark horse. I didn't expect them to be such a dark horse in this qualifiers where they would have ran away with the actual qualifying group, finishing on top and just losing 1 game. But outside of that, I think things went according to plan. I will add as well, guys, that I thought Jamaica would have been in the reckoning, particularly when we talked about the type of names that were courted and eventually played for the Reggae Boyz. But, of course, that World Cup qualifying campaign came unraveled quite quickly. And to me, that was a big disappointment. Yeah.
The 4-0 loss in Toronto on Sunday evening, Brent, was played in pretty cold conditions, minus 0, somewhere minus 4, I think, degrees. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty cold. Some are pointing to the difficulties that a Jamaican team, many of the players in the setup were actually local based. How difficult is it for a Caribbean player accustomed to bright sunshine and, you know, temperatures of 30 degrees Celsius and over? How difficult is it for them to perform in those cold conditions? And would that be a part of the reason why they lost badly on Sunday?
You know, lads, I think a lot of people needs to realize that qualifying out of the CONCACAF group is probably one of the more difficult scenarios for any team, for that matter. And it has not just down to the fact that there are some top teams in the qualifying route, but I think the contrasting, of course, different types of situations and scenarios that you would face. It's very hostile when you go to Central America, as you would have heard, I'm sure, in the past. And the type of gamesmanship that is played in these types of countries. And when you go to North America, you have to play in far-flung places, and of course in some cold, very, very frigid weather. So this is all part and parcel of CONCACAF qualification, and any player that from any country that wants to qualify would have to take this into stride. It is what it is, and as I said, especially for teams in the Caribbean, we tried at Trinidad and Tobago to play the US at 1 p.m. at the Queen's Park Oval. It backfired. Of course, we lost 2-1, but that is the sort of gamesmanship that is normally part and parcel of CONCACAF qualifying.
Yeah, I know, but practically speaking, though, Brent, as a Caribbean person, not even yourself, because you spent a lot of time in England playing, so you would be more accustomed to the frigid conditions, the cold conditions, than most of the players who are based locally. But is it really that difficult for them to make that adjustment?
Yeah, it certainly is. Of course, we know what being in the cold is like. Can't feel your feet. Of course, hands frigid, very difficult to breathe. There's just some of the situations that come with it, and also I think it's very intimidating for a player coming from the Caribbean. It's a big challenge. It's a big ask for them. It's very easy to make an excuse as a player and say, you know what, it's not the type of weather that I want to play in, and of course would not show up for the game. And you add the fact that when Canada play in these types of situations, we saw it when they played the Americans, we saw it when they played the Mexicans at home, they're very, very up for it. So those, I think, combination of factors make it a challenge. And I think outside of the physical challenge, as I mentioned, with what happens playing in the cold, I think there's also that mental side as well. And when you combine both, it is a big ask.
Brent, Canada being on top of these Concacaf World Cup qualifiers, I mean, I think they've actually played the best football in these rounds of qualifiers here in Concacaf. But what does that say about the Concacaf region overall in terms of its strength? Because I haven't been impressed.
Yeah, it would be remiss of me if I did not give Canada the plaudits, because Oliver, this started a while back for the Canadians. I think they put together a very impressive infrastructure within their country in terms of developing players, having 3 professional teams that play in the MLS with academies also assisted, and there is some generational talent with the likes of Jonathan David, and of course Davies as well. So you add all those factors and you do have a very, very good team, and I must add as well, they have a good coach in Herdman. And although I agree with you in terms of the type of, and I think you have to point it more to the big guns or the considered big guns in CONCACAF. In Costa Rica, disappointed. America, disappointed. Mexico, extremely disappointed. And then, of course, you had a Canadian team that played out of their skin. And you're right, it was a disappointing overall CONCACAF outlook. But I think from what we saw, you have to ask yourself what next as these teams start marching towards Qatar. Are they going to be able to make any dent as it relates to the favorites, as it relates to the tournament in World Cup? But overall, some of the big guns and the more favorable teams did not perform well at all in the qualifiers.
And even then, we look at the likes of Panama, they started off pretty well in these qualifiers, and now they're out of the running. I think they've lost 3 out of their last 5 games. I mean, what happened with them and their dip in form?
Yeah, I remember having a conversation after Panama beat Jamaica comprehensively in the office and speaking on the show. And I did say that I wondered if the Canadians could keep up the tempo, the pace that they were playing at. And you remember, this is now a World Cup qualifier with 3 games in a window. They played high-pressing, energetic type of football. And when you're playing like that and is asked to play like that throughout the entire qualifiers, and mind you, Oliver, they didn't have quite a deep squad as it relates to talent, or certainly they didn't rotate heavily. When you look at the players that have been used, you would run out of gas. And I think that's exactly what happened to Panama. They just could not keep up the type of football that they were playing at the beginning of the qualifiers, and they certainly did run out of steam at the end.
The Americans knew that they had to be in the top 3 anyway. But as you mentioned before, they haven't been totally impressive. But last night, they really came to the party.
Yeah, they did come to the party. I think they were a bit fortunate with some of the calls that they got, certainly the second penalty. But look, I think they have big name players in the like of Pulisic who would always deliver. I like what I see in Reina. You have to remember, this is a very, very young American team. And despite the fact that they have had some great success under Berhalter, they're still growing as it go along. They would consider themselves a learning, this entire qualification, a learning experience for them, and the inconsistencies would have been a sign of that. But as we move forward, I think this is an American team that can improve, and I wouldn't count them out just yet. I think they could spring one or two surprises in the World Cup, albeit, of course, they take care of business against Panama. But I think in terms of the youth, the excitement, and when they are in their top gear, there are not many teams, certainly in CONCACAF, that can live with them.
Yeah, Brent, we'll leave it there. We'll talk again later on in the week. Thanks for joining us, man.
No problem, guys. Have a great one.
Yeah, Brent Sancho there, former TNT Central Defender, World Cup representative at the 2006 World Cup Finals in Germany. So, Donald, only one round remaining in this, and the top four pretty much decided. I think the only issue now is if Costa Rica will get into an automatic spot or they will remain in fourth place to be in an interconfederation playoff.
Kind of boring, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit. But good work by the Canadians. They have been consistent, as you pointed out, all cycle in this round of football, and they have deservedly taken their spot at the top. I think they will be the winners of the series.
But have you been impressed, though? Overall, well, not only by the Canadians, but the quality of the CONCACAF region?
No, the quality has been disappointing. You are right, and Brent is correct. Mexico, Costa Rica and USA look significantly below par, below what we've grown to expect from them. So from that standpoint, the Canadians weren't that tested because they have improved significantly. So, the USAs and the Mexicos of this world didn't offer the Canadians the kind of resistance that they would have in previous cycles. So congrats to the Canadians as they make their way to Qatar. And we look forward to the midweek matches, which will confirm the final placings. We go to break. When we come back, our second set of zone updates.
Keep watching SportsMax on YouTube for live and exciting sports. Subscribe to SportsMax on cable and download the SportsMax app to watch anytime, anywhere.